Good morning and happy Friday. It's day 71 of Walk with Winston. Coming to you just a touch later this morning from Tampa. That's a long story. Well, I'll share a little bit of it with you this morning. And that's actually the title. It's related to our talk. So, I just got home about 5 or 6 hours ago from a flight that was scheduled to leave around 7:30 Eastern and get here around 10. Got us in right about 1 o'clock in the morning. And then there's quite a distance for me from the airport. And so I got home around 2 in the morning this morning. And so I had about 3 extra hours at the airport that I hadn't planned for. And there's a lot of different emotions you can have. I remember coming to the gate at the scheduled boarding time. All the apps said and notices said that we were on time, but when I got to the gate, there was no airplane. I thought, well, that's odd. Usually American Airlines is very good about keeping us in the loop in terms of inbound aircraft and everything that's going on. But one look at the radar gave us all the answers we were looking for, because our inbound craft was coming from Charlotte to DC. And Charlotte was experiencing around that hour or just before the full brunt of the remnants of Hurricane Michael. And so Charlotte, being such an important hub for American Airlines, particularly on the East Coast, it was inevitable that there would be delays. In fact, 2 of the 4 inbound flights to DC from Charlotte had been canceled altogether. So I felt fortunate that our inbound aircraft was still scheduled to arrive. But to make a long story short, I had 3 extra hours on my hands as I was waiting for the arrival of our inbound aircraft. And this reminds me that on our transformational journey, everything is not up and to the right. Our progression is not a linear, straight up and to the right type progress. We're not going to see that. We're going to see ups and downs, advances and setbacks in terms of the progress that we're making towards our goals and our transformation. And that's just a natural cycle, I believe, of how we do things. There's a time of pushing, there's a time of movement towards our goals, and sometimes there's a pause that either we have implemented or is imposed upon us somehow externally. And if we resist that or fight that, we're just adding to our misery. And so I don't know who the source of this question is. I've heard it from so many different sources. But the question is, so what does this make possible? It reminds me of when I was in the 12-step rooms. We had a grizzled old veteran who had this really raspy voice, and he would stand up to share when it was at that time to share. And someone had prompted this. It was always in reaction to another share. And he would stand up and declare with his grizzled voice, "Everything happens in God's time." And I remember being a relatively new person in the group, and it would sit down. It would just be those 5 words. Everything happens in God's time. 4 words. And I was like, what in the world is he talking about? And basically, it was a reminder to surrender when we're in the midst of a setback or a pause. It was a reminder that it doesn't really even matter what my timing is. There are bigger forces at work that influence our ability to advance sometimes. So what does this make possible is a great reframing, a great reminder that despite my best efforts, despite my best intentions, I don't necessarily control all the outcomes. I'd much rather be safe and be on a delayed flight, on a flight that is not even canceled and is eventually going to get home, than to be in an unsafe position or have to spend an extra night somewhere because inbound flight's completely scratched. So I had those 3 extra hours. I could have stewed or gotten really upset or gotten into an unproductive state. But instead, that question popped into my mind. What does this make possible? And I thought, well, I'm kind of worn out from 2 long days on the road. I could zone out and just go to my comfort activities of, going to the bar or going to the buffet at this particular location. I thought, no, that's not going to serve me. That's not going to serve my health goals that I've declared so publicly here. What else could I do with this time? And then it occurred to me, I had some inspiring podcasts in my feed, and also had some coursework that I had purchased that I had available to me. And so I used those 3 hours very productively, especially listened to one podcast in particular from my mentor and coach, and then Sarah Anna Powers, and then also started digging into my coursework for BBD, where I'm attending that conference here in a couple weeks. I thought, well, let's dig into more of that content and really have that as a foundation going into that trip. So I was able to reframe what was a setback, which was an irritation, and to use it in a productive manner. And more importantly for me, resetting a habit and reframing a habit that traditionally I've always done. When I want to numb out, I've got plenty of ways that I've done historically, and just to kind of zone out, especially after a draining couple of days at work on the road. I know what I can do to zone out, and the fact that I didn't go to that habit for a change was super helpful to me. So my encouragement to you today is, whenever you feel a setback on timing or pace or something that you're seeking or working on in your transformational journey, use this question: what does this make possible? Dig into that. I think you'll find a real gem of an opportunity. With that, you guys have a great Friday. I'll talk to you soon.